What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We have with us the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, fresh from England. Tyson, how are you doing?
I've been better, but I'm ready. I'm ready for a fight. That's all I'm gonna say. No more time for talking. That Usyk, that little sausage. I'm gonna beat his ass, and he better shut his mouth before I smack it in. Tell him, my son. That's right. I'm gonna go Keo on his ass, and I'm not gonna allow any corner shenanigans or nothing. I'm not gonna have no flexing, no yapping, no karaoke, no wrestling bullshit. I'm just gonna smack his head in.
Yeah, so you have your father, John, with you. I heard him in the background there.
That's right, my son.
Why did you decide to kick him out of the corner this time?
I kicked him out of the corner just like the bouncers kicked him out of that club after he beat that dumb little bellend in over at the last time I had my fight. He's too distracting. I saw him on the monitor. I was getting texts from him in my shorts as I was fighting. I was like, Dad, I'm having a fight right now. And he's like, no, son, they arrested me. They arrested me outside the club. You need to pay for my alimony. I can't right now. I'm fighting Dado. So, you know, he's getting on there. He's got Alzheimer's. He's got dementia.
Yeah, I think we can all see that pretty plainly. You should probably keep him out of the public eye. So you were having a great fight against Aleksandr Usyk until you weren't. How do you think things will be different this time around?
I'm gonna hurt him. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm gonna knock the sausage off the dosa. And if the silly rabbit decides to mess around in my garden again, I'm gonna use his innards to make my stew. Go on, my son! Let old SpongeBob hear it! He's gonna smash those 2 buck teeth in, boyo! Hey, I don't know. I'm not gonna leave you alone in there, Tyson. I'm coming for you, Tyson. Hey, you senior, are you leaving people in the club alone when I take your son's head this time, Grandpa? I wouldn't have smacked up that booger whether or not my son won. I would have smacked him out. That guy was a bet in the way he was looking at me. He had it coming. Show him that look, my son. Show him that look at Usyk. Yeah, you're dead, Dawson. You're dead. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. What is up, troopers and grinders? Hank the Tank and Idaho Skatesman. We're still doing our thing, damn it. Even if we have no UFC, we are breaking down the best in regional MMA, in Rise Kickboxing over in Japan, and real-ass boxing here in Saudi Arabia. And it will be in Saudi Arabia by Turkey Al-Sheikh's orders for the rest of eternity, the rest of our lifetimes. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I really am. So, still a very exciting weekend in combat sports. Lots to talk about, lots to pick. How are you feeling going into this weekend, Skatesman?
Doing fine. Feeling good. Your accent was like a Russian Tyson Fury.
It was, yeah. No grill for you this time. You're going to the gulag. I'm going to erase you from my photographs. Da. My own son got locked up in prison, and I didn't.
So obviously, like, nobody really cares about KSW, but their cards are generally pretty good.
Yeah, because they got the...
And then no one really cares about kickboxing either, like Rise versus Glory. But the difference is this event, this weekend, Rise versus Glory, it's a tournament, and also it's on Triller TV. So, like, it's not extremely difficult to watch. You don't need to have a sketchy app that may or may not work to watch, like the one you usually use to watch Glory, and you don't need to go on a Bima, the Japanese website. So it's like it's easy to watch this time, but obviously the crown jewel of the weekend will be Usyk versus Fury. I feel like the problem
with Giuliano's excited for KSW though. Yo, I'm streaming KSW and betting a video out later tonight. He loves to help the people.
It's unfortunate.
Well, holy smokes, is it Capitan Rafuco? It's good to have Capitan Rafuco in there. I like the Raiders belt as well, Capitan Rafuco. Hey, Andrew B, good to see you. What were you saying?
Well, what was I going to say? What I was saying is that I feel like we already saw everything that Usyk and Fury have, like, to bring to the table in a fight.
It was an all-out fight.
In their last fight. So it's like the 13th round of their last fight. And I mean, though I am excited at any heavyweight championship rematch is always going to be a banger. It just has a little less steam. I feel like again, we've already seen what both of them bring to the table. So I'll be interested to see how they top their last performance, because honestly, like barring a knockout, I think that the fans will be disappointed no matter what the two men bring in the ring.
They're not going to like the decision. Do you think this goes to a decision again, just like the last fight? There were a lot.
Like I said, if it doesn't, everyone will be like stoked. But if it does again, I think people will be disappointed. That's my prediction for the fight. As far as do I think it'll go to a decision? I think we can talk about that once we break it down a little bit more.
Yeah. Are we going to get the classic Idaho Skatesman draw? That is the big.
Hey, I mean, that would be good for all the bettors out there. But I mean, I don't think I've ever predicted a draw.
Yeah.
So
nice. But do you want to talk about Rise first, or do you want to go through KSW?
Oh, we could talk about Rise just really briefly.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, this card will be on Triller TV, Fight TV, whatever the fuck it's called nowadays. But the first fight of note will be Ryujin Nasukawa, younger brother of Tenshin Nasukawa. He's headlined some Rise cards of his own in the past few months. He's going up against a TIE fighter, MC Superlek.
Wait.
It says MC Superlek.
It's more gym BS, isn't it?
It could be Superlek's gym, but I honestly have no idea. Anyway, looking forward to what Ryujin bring to the table. He's been on some Rising cards, headline a couple Rise cards, and he's only 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, young man.
How would Superlek do as an MC if he was like on the mic and they were doing the break beat and he was doing some?
Depends on if it's in Thai or not.
That's true. He'd do great in Indonesia.
But so this is part of the tournament right here. Yuto versus Jan. I don't know either of these guys. This guy's got 2 belts though. Look at him. Then we have Kento Haraguchi. I think he is a former champion. He just recently lost his belt versus Miguel Trinidad. And then you've got really the real story of this card is Chad Collins. He won the last tournament kind of as a guy that nobody really knew or gave a fuck about. And he beat the hell out of Petch, who is like the long reigning champ in Glory. Like he's cleaned out the division in Glory. Nobody's been able to beat him. He goes into a tournament fight with Chad Collins, and he gets literally the shit. He gets schooled by Chad Collins. Chad Collins goes on to lose his next fight, so just not a good look for Glory as a whole. But yeah, I'm hoping that these two meet up
for a while.
And honestly, this is a mistake that a lot of tournament formats do. Is there's a match we clearly want to see at some point in the tournament, and then they put them on opposite sides of the bracket. I think they should have just put them together to start. But yeah. So that's Rise versus Glory. That's going down tomorrow. Actually, in 25 hours. So
nice.
That should be fun.
You planning on doing a fight companion for some Rise?
Probably not.
Gotcha. Just wanted to check in. It sounds like fun. Going to be classic Rise kickboxing. Hope we get a bunch of knockouts in 5 seconds. Speaking of which, by the way, did you hear that in Karate Combat, which just wrapped up, Robelis Despain made his debut for the promotion, and he got a knockout in 5 seconds. Classic Despain just rushing forward.
Yeah, I just couldn't be bothered with Karate Combat anymore.
I know.
Don't care.
It's just
same
fun.
with BKFC. I just don't care about either.
I like the finishes. And I was scrolling through the Discord, and Isha was of course talking about it because he loves Robelis Despain, when he was in the UFC. And so he saw the result. I could literally visualize his reaction. Wow! Holy motherfuck! He went crazy as soon as Robelis Despain got that 5-second knockout. So I gotta watch the replay myself. That was good shit. And if I were Robelis Despain, if GFL is calling me up and saying, okay, you're still competing for GFL come April, right? I'm like, beep. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going through a tunnel. Because in Karate Combat, I could see him becoming an actual star and having some success and
if Karate Combat decides to like make a heavyweight belt for him specifically, I think he could make a lot more money than he would just working for GFL. But that being said, let's talk about MMA beyond just GFL. Let's talk about good old KSW and some of the fights they got on there. This is probably one of the most competitive fights, or one of the more controversial ones, because it's sort of a 50-50 fight. I was actually able to convince Giuliano that Nassim Belkhachi was the pick to make in this fight against Mr. Fabian Zabidi. It's a 2-2 guy up against a 3-3 guy. And it's just sort of a matter of the quality of opposition that both guys have faced. And good old Zippity has been facing guys, a 1-0 guy he got a knockout 2 years, 5 months ago. Then 1 year and 3 months ago. So that's that's a year and 2 months later. He gets a unanimous decision against a 1-0 guy, a guy who's had one professional fight. And then he loses to a 4-0 guy. Now, Belkhachi lost to a 5-0 guy, but I was hearing in different sections of the MMA community that this guy should be on Contender Series in the future. 5-0, undefeated, getting submission after submission. Like, I see this guy as a way more impressive, like, fraud check than losing to a 4-0 guy by decision. And he's taken on a better caliber of competition, and he's more active. So for that reason, I'm going with Belkhachi, even though seems like the Tapology and the odds makers are both sort of split on who they think is going to win this thing. I'm going with Nassim, though. Then we have Mr. Edward Kexel, German featherweight, Eastern Europe. Slight favorite here against Mr. Alwin Nahaye, but apparently this guy is just a wrestling machine. Rear naked choke, 8-3 guy beats up, 6-1 guy just destroys him on the ground, 6-1 guy in another promotion. He's just getting these guys down and just beating the absolute hell out of him. He looks sort of backwards. He's got that, backwards hat and just a wrestling singlet. He's a classic wrestler, and he's taking on this sort of older striker, 33 years of age. It's sort of weird they don't have Kexel's age, to be honest. He did get
weird? It's KSW. Nobody cares.
He did get a flying knee knockout of a 9-1 guy. That was pretty impressive, but these are some fights in Aries, and I don't consider Aries the most prestigious promotion in the world. And he's lost.
Haven't you covered Aries on this channel?
What?
Haven't you covered Aries on this channel?
We have covered Aries, and I've compared the two, and honestly, I don't like the quality of talent in Aries compared to some of the other regional promotions that I've been doing locks and underdogs for. And it seems like Nahaye has been losing to the wrestlers as of late. So I think this is a perfect stylistic matchup for Edward Kexel, and I see him winning by way of destruction. And then we have like the last three fights. A lot of people are high on the dude on the right. He's rightfully called Top Boy, Alain Vandemerkt. Solid guy, 11-5 knockout, 8-4 knockout. This looks like less great competition, but he still knocks him out. So even when these guys are being fed cans, if you're destroying them in dominant fashion in the first round, I don't mind that. And meanwhile, Mr. Laid Zerhoni, he lost by knockout to a 6-2 character. This guy's 8-0, undefeated. Is clearly a hyped up prospect. He's a knockout artist himself, but I feel like a lot of people are putting their chips behind Top Boy, and I can't disagree with them. So,
wait, what's his name? Zerhoni? Isn't that the name of the chick in Holes with selling onions?
Oh yeah, that is. Wow. Well, it looks like he escaped from. He came out of the pages of Holes the book. He's like, ripped the pages open, and now he's fighting in what?
I wonder if he knows who Stanley Yelnats is.
Stanley Yelnats. Isn't he also in Holes?
Yeah, it's a main character.
Yeah, he knows. Because I remember when I was a kid, I saw the book cover, and it was the kid with the backwards cap who's walking around the Holes, and that's old Stanley. And then there was a freaking lady at the camp who would like use her nails, and they had like poison in them. That shit's messed up, dude. She did. She like had like nail polish that was covered in poison. She would literally like scratch her own employees. That was a weird ass book, to be honest. But most children's books are.
Stanley Yelnats is the same forward and backwards.
Yes, and that would
it's Yelnats is just Stanley in reverse.
Yeah, it sounds like a character out of a series of unfortunate events. But we then have the co-main event between Davey Gallen and Marcin Held. Davey Gallen, he's honestly not on that much of a hot streak. But
isn't that Gallon?
It's KSW. Wait, what?
Isn't that Gallon?
Gallon? Oh yeah, he's French, so it's Gallon. It's Gallon. But Marcin Held, 32-7 guy knocked him out. That's a pretty good opponent. 17-8, and he brings to a unanimous decision. Mostly a wrestler. Oof. I don't like those losses. I mean, OAM is pretty good, but then this guy Davey Gallen is losing to 13-7 dudes. Having an overturned fight with Saul Rogers, 15-5. Ugh. On a losing streak against Cans. At least Marcin Held is getting beat by pretty solid fighters, and he is a wrestler, pressure fighter, and usually the pressure ends up turning into diamonds. So give me Marcin Held. And finally, the main event between good old Saladin Parnasse and Wilson Varela. I'm very impressed with Saladin Parnasse as a lightweight champion. Sure, he lost to Bartoszynski in KSW. That's a 14-0 guy. That's not bad. And then every other contender he's destroyed with body kicks, soccer kicks, head kicks. Sick fucking champion, dude. And he was able to get a few rear naked chokes a couple years ago, so he's well-rounded. And then this guy Varela, he's all right, but as you can see in his last fight, he fought Marian Ziolkowski, and he won due to an arm injury. And you're coming off an arm injury going into a title fight. I just don't really like that. And then all the other competition is like they have like a third of their fights or losses. So he is the prototype, but I feel like he hasn't been given that great of competition. He's not ready for a Saladin Parnasse. So I see him winning via a big, devastating head kick, body kick. He's a great kickboxer, so I see him finding the timing on a big kick. So give me Saladin Parnasse to retain, and I hope that the UFC calls him up at some point, puts him on a contender series, because I think he would be a very entertaining.
That's what I was going to talk about. They already offered him a contract.
Did they?
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that. They offered him a contract, and he had turned it down, and KSW is paying him like, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but it's somewhere around like $400,000 a fight. And I think that the UFC was offering him like 30 and 30.
30 to show, 30 to win. And that's a pretty good deal compared to a lot of UFC fighters.
Wait, did you not hear anything I just said?
Wait, 30 to show, 30 to win.
Yeah, but KSW is paying him like $400,000 a fight.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. It's like, so
I didn't hear the first part. Sorry.
Right. So yeah, like they've already made him an offer, and
it's a shitty offer.
Yeah, well, he's like, why the fuck would I do that? So
exactly.
Like, honestly, you saying that you hope that he gets the call up to Dana White's contender
series. Now I don't.
It's kind of a slap in the face to him, because anybody who wins contender, I think they get a 12-12 contract on an 8-fight deal. Mm-hmm. So why would he do that? Like, why would you hope that he goes to contender series?
Honestly, the reason that most guys want to end up in the UFC is just because they're chasing greatness, or they're chasing star power to be recognized as a mixed martial artist. But if it's not worth the conditions and the pay, I agree with Saladin. I'd stay in KSW, and I'd keep winning in devastating, impressive fashion, because there's a lot of other promotions, even boxing promotions, that would give him nicer pay if he moved on to them instead of KSW. So he has options outside of the UFC as well. So the world is sort of his oyster, and he's a fan favorite in KSW as well. He's got nowhere else to go, especially when he's in his prime. So probably a good decision in hindsight.
Yeah, it says this is manager talking. You should know that I won't give figures, but we had very, very good proposals. We earned 2.5 times what we used to earn. So it's just huge. It's largely in the 6 figures. Yes, of course, the UFC was between 20 and 30 times less.
Sheesh. And then, I don't wonder why some of these guys don't end up in the UFC.
Well, no, and it's just that I think that this is like every once in a while the UFC will fumble a good prospect. Like when Shane Burgos went to the PFL and Dana White came out publicly and was like, "Yeah, we kind of screwed that one up." I think this is just another case of that, where they were like, they didn't offer the guy enough. They didn't know what they had, but from all accounts, he's a really exciting fighter. Who is the guy that he lost to, though?
He lost to Mr. Adrian Bartoszynski, who's no slouch, 14-0, unbeaten streak.
Is he a lightweight as well?
I think so. Now let me actually look at Tapology, because it might have been like a super fighter. He probably went up a weight class to fight him.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Let me
see, but this goes to show you that nobody gives a shit about KSW.
KSW. Well, because we don't know that piece of information.
We don't know any. I don't know any of these fighters or like anything they've done. Or
I do know Mr. Saladin. Wait, Bartoszynski didn't. I thought he moved up as well recently. No, well, yeah. There's Bartoszynski with the belt, and he fought. Yes, because he lost to Khalidov. Khalidov moved up to fight him. That guy's an old freaking man, and he tried to win belts in 2 weight classes and ended up scoring a huge upset on Mr. Bartoszynski. But he is he is the current. Let me look at the. I'm pretty sure it's light heavyweight. Yeah, no, 170. Wait, now I'm even more confused.
Yeah, but see, neither does Hank. Or I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. If he was the welterweight,
do you know these people?
I meant that Saladin Parnes did move up to fight him. He's lightweight champion, so he moved up. So we were both right. He went up the weight class to fight him, and he lost in like the super fight. But then he defended his lightweight title right after that. That's why that counts as his first title defense. This is his second.
Yeah, then that's probably no knock on him. I would say the UFC probably missed out on a good prospect. But you know, it's good that other talent is in other promotions. You know, but yeah, Master Sanchez says yes fun. Because you don't know any of these fighters. That means no one cares about. I mean, if you live in Poland, you probably care a lot.
Or if you're a certain fight junkie in Canada.
Yeah. Isha doesn't live in Canada.
He lives in Minnesota.
Yeah, he lives in Minnesota. I met him.
Go wild. You'll always be a Canadian in my heart.
Yeah. But, I mean, objectively, like, nobody does care. Right. You know what's interesting about KSW, though, is...
KSW.
I would argue that they might be one of the promotions outside of the UFC that actually is profitable.
They're having huge arena shows.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they've been around for a while. They've recently had their 100th event. So yeah, no, I mean, even though, but it's just true. Like nobody does give it. I mean, if we just did KSW content, like nobody would watch the show.
Never know until you try.
Are you literally okay? Why do you think that any journalist that gets paid money to cover combat sports doesn't cover KSW? Do you know why?
Is because people don't read the articles?
No, yeah, nobody gives a. That's why no news outlet ever covers anything about KSW unless it's in relation to the UFC.
That Rush Hour, he covers boxing, and I haven't really viewed boxing as the most popular sports for like a while now. But he's been able to have people show up in his live streams for sometimes even random ass boxing promotions. So
yeah, it's just objectively true that nobody cares about any other promotion that's not the UFC. I mean, I have a one poster right behind me. I've been to one events. I love one, but like, I obviously know that we can't make a show centered around one. Like, yeah, that's why we do UFC picks and predictions is the fucking huge part of our show.
Yeah. Also, I enjoy watching UFC and covering and predicting UFC because I know a lot of the fighters better.
That's probably not true either.
What's my favorite then?
No, I'm saying you enjoy watching the UFC.
In moments, yes.
I would say a majority of the time you don't enjoy it.
Yes, but every once in a while there's a diamond in the kitty litter box.
So if y'all don't know the fighters, why the fuck are we even talking about KSW? Then if no one cares, good question. You should ask Hank.
It is because I like to cover regional MMA and give it a spotlight, and there are certain guys that I enjoy in those promotions, and so I do Hank's Locks and Underdogs to cover them. Because I find it interesting, and it was sort of cool seeing Muhammad Mukayev fight in Brave, so I covered that as a lock. So every once in a while, I see something that's cool on the regional scene, and I like to shout it out. Also, Giuliano's doing some KSW, so it's also going to be a really good show. There's some solid talents on here, and so I'd recommend that if people have nothing going on a Friday, I would recommend checking out some KSW if you got the time. It's going to be a fun show. Bunch of genetic freak, roided up poles knocking the shit out of each other. So it's going to be a good time.
Cool. Well, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much all the kickboxing and MMA of the weekend. What are your like other fights on this card that you want to talk about besides the main event?
On Usyk versus Fury.
Yeah, reignited.
Yes.
By the way, is this Riyadh season? When does Riyadh season end? Is it just always
Never.
Riyadh season?
It's all year, Skatesman. It's until Turkey Al-Sheikh passes away. So it'll be Riyadh season for like the next 30, 40 years, I believe. I'd say some of the fights I'm interested in are Moses Itama fighting Dempsey McKean. Since I've been following Moses's career, I'd also
Only
say,
19.
wait, what?
What makes this fight interesting?
Dempsey McKean is 22-1, so he's actually one of the very few threats that Moses Itama is taking on. He's only had 10 fights, and now he's taking on a 22-1 guy. He's a big favorite, but I think he should be a smaller favorite, honestly. It's hard to beat this guy. This guy's tough as nails. Moses Itama is very technical. He's tall. He's got a great reach. Dempsey McKean lost to Filip Hrgović, which honestly isn't the best of losses, given that Hrgović.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's good, but
because he lost to Dubois?
Exposed. Yeah, Hrgović got
he lost to like one of the top 5 heavyweights
that is
in
true.
the world right now, so it's a bad loss, dude. Filip Hrgović was number 1 on the IBF before he lost to Dubois. You should actually look at Filip Hrgovic's record, because that dude is really good. I would argue that's not a bad loss to have. That's just because you lost to Filip Hrgović. That's like
interesting little tidbit, by the way. Dempsey McKean won against Tai Tuivasa back in 2016 before he was in MMA. He was a boxer. He beat the shit out of Tai Tuivasa. Let's go, And so he lost to Filip Hrgović. As Skatesman put it, that is not a bad loss to have. Hrgović is a big heavyweight. He has had some clumsy moments on the feet, but I would say that's still just because he lost to Filip Hrgović and got knocked out.
Okay, hold on. He says, "Shut up. He sucks." Okay, he's undefeated. He beat Zhang, beat Dempsey McKean, Mark Demori, and then all by TKO. He beat Zhang while Zhang was still like considered like a monster, right? And he beat him handily too. Actually, you know what? I think that fight might have been close. Now that I think about it. And then he went 8 rounds with Dubois in a fucking hell of a fight. Yeah, I mean, he was undefeated till he lost to Dubois. Literally in June. So I don't know why he sucks.
I would say that he's a good challenge for Moses Itama, but look at how he's winning his recent fights.
I was talking about Hrgović.
Yeah. Well, Hrgović is tough as well. He's fun to watch. But look at how Itama's winning his fights. Round 2 knockout, counter right hook, round 2 knockout, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout. So he's a punching machine. He's got a lot of power in those fists. Not Foreman-like, but I mean, honestly, he's getting him done in round 1, like 1 minute, 2 minutes. So that is pretty crazy. He has a lot of advantages going into this fight. Physically, he's younger as well. He's beating a guy who's coming off a loss, but I think it's going to be a close fight. I don't think he's going to get it done in round 1. I see it happening more in like, oh God, what did I have him by? I think I had him by round 6 knockout. Maybe even round 10. Like I have it happening in the later rounds. This is like the first guy in a while since his name was Kevin Nicholas Espindola that is going to give him a fight that it's going to go more than 2 rounds. And we'll see how his cardio goes as the later rounds go on. But I still see him finding the knockout. But and this will prove Itama.
Okay.
Moses Itama. I still see it being not a close fight, but definitely a tough fight to get through for Moses before he finds that knockout. So I see that being a very exciting fight. There's also Serhiy Bohachuk taking on Ishmael Davis. I remember picking the opponent of Ishmael Davis in his last fight to score an upset against him. Josh Kelly. I had him winning a majority decision against Ishmael Davis. That's exactly what happened, or a split decision, but it turned into a majority decision. Both guys were undefeated until they dealt with their last fights, which were both of them lost by majority decision in a close fight. And so now this is actually sort of a big fight between 2 guys who go the distance and are usually pretty dominant in there. Both have a lot of power, but I think that Serhiy Bohachuk did a better job in the fight that he lost than Ishmael Davis did. A lot of people thought that he won that fight and then he lost by majority decision. But that was a great fight. between him and Virgil Ortiz Jr. I actually replayed that fight. I watched it back because Isha told me, dude, this is the boxing fight to watch when he was on Rush City. He said, like, dude, you need to go back and watch this boxing fight. It's going to be the boxing fight of the year. I tuned in. It was absolutely insane. Batshit. Like, both men were bleeding and just back and forth. No guy had, like, really an advantage, but I do think that Bohachuk won more rounds. I was tallying it up on the scorecard. So in my eyes, he's still on a hot streak. He still has a lot of momentum going into this fight with Ishmael Davis. Whereas I think that Josh Kelly was able to pull ahead of Ishmael Davis in their fight and outpoint him at range and sort of figure out his style. Because Ishmael Davis, he's dangerous. He has power, but he's the kind of guy who loses fights until he gets the knockdown, in which case then he starts to turn the tide. Whereas Bohachuk's always in a fight, always brawling, always just barely outpointing his opponents in scraps. I feel like Davis really needs to swing back the momentum in order to win his fights. Whereas Bohachuk he wins. He has scraps and he wins them. So I think he's more used to this kind of big back and forth brawl than Ishmael Davis is, who I think is taking on less good a competition compared to Bohachuk, who I think is starting to enter a point where he's taking on good competition every fight. So give me Serhi to win a very close decision in a banger of a fight. It'll probably be fight of the night. No, it won't be, because we have Fury versus Usyk too, which I also see going how many, 12 rounds? I see it going all 12 rounds.
Yeah, all championship boxing matches are 12 rounds.
And is there anything else? I do want to mention that I think there's going to be a good boxing underdog on this card. Another one. His name is going to be Peter McGrail taking on Reese Edwards. He is a favorite on the odds makers, but everybody else has Reese Edwards. But I like Peter McGrail's style. I think he just sort of like Serhi. He loves to brawl. He loves to just get into the scrap, and then he usually wins the exchanges. Whereas Reese Edwards really needs to stay at range against his opponents and back them up against the ropes or the corner before he can lay in with the big shots. McGrail, I think, can be hit because he leaves a guard where his head is just sort of open most of the time. And if he's coming in, you can hit him with the uppercut. But Reese Edwards, I've seen his opposition. And once they start to feel a little bit of the impact of Edwards' punches, they usually sort of recoil. They sort of back up. They don't exchange. They're never pressuring forward constantly. I think that McGrail's a boxer that Reese Edwards hasn't dealt with yet in his career. I think McGrail's going to make it a fight, and Edwards isn't ready for a fight where he's going to have to be on the back foot in moments. He hasn't been tested yet. So I think McGrail is going to win a decision in another very hard-fought fight. I usually trust the brawler instead of the sniper who's just emerging. So that's going to be another interesting underdog. And that's all I got in terms of fights to look out for besides the main event.
Yeah, I'm sure the card's going to be fantastic. Do you know if there's going to be a concert this time?
Oh, a concert in between. Oh, no doubt. No doubt there's going to be some sort of concert show. I hope it's not, oh fuck, what was their name? It wasn't even them. It was just one of them. But maybe Oasis, Do
you think it'll be One Direction, this person in the chat?
DJ Aiden is praying
will be.
for One Direction to make an appearance before the main event, and they're gonna take out a tambourine at one point and start shaking it around, saying "You don't know you're beautiful." And then DJ Aiden's gonna be like, "Oh," and he's gonna pass out. Just because he just can't. He's like that fan at the Michael Jackson concert who has to get carried out on a stretcher. But if there's a music act during boxing that is willing enough to sell out for all that money, it's probably going to suck. So let me look up whether Usyk versus Fury 2 is going to have a concert.
Like you said, it's all but guaranteed at this point.
Yeah. Walkout songs.
Big boxing pay-per-view. Death Taxes and big boxing pay-per-views having a concert in the middle are just guarantees in this world at this point.
Exactly. So get ready for a very fun concert that's going to last only 2 hours. So look forward to that, man. But let's move on to the main event following the wonderful musical performance we're going to see on Saturday. Usyk, the undisputed heavyweight champion in boxing. First time that's happened.
Technically, he's not undisputed anymore because they did strip him of the IBF. Now I think it's Dubois who is as soon as because I think instead of this rematch, they wanted him to fight the winner of Dubois and Herkovich. And so since he didn't, they stripped him of the IBF title. So now he is no longer the undisputed, but it doesn't really matter. He's in our hearts. He's the undisputed champion, and he's the lineal heavyweight champion, which is really all that matters.
Oh yeah. So Boots is the IBF champion.
What?
Who's the? Oh no, it's Dubois. Oh yeah, that's right. So he doesn't have every single belt. Now it's somewhat.
Yeah. They did. Like I just said, they stripped.
Right.
I don't think you listened to me half the time, but yeah,
I did listen to you. But Aleksandr Usyk, he is taking on Tyson Fury in the. Would you say this is a much anticipated rematch? Would you say people were like, yeah, dude, they need to have the second fight to prove who's the best, or was it like, okay, they're booking the rematch. Hey, it's gonna be good, but like, hey, I'd prefer this or that opponent to take him on instead. Like, what
I think a lot of people just. I think that Tyson Fury just has a cult of personality. Usyk doesn't really, because he's just a humble dude. Like, his personality is that he's just kind of a strange guy, like quirky dude.
Right.
But unfortunately, like I think I said in the intro, is he just doesn't. It's just like the 13th round. Like we've already kind of seen everything. I think that the biggest thing, like the biggest storyline heading into the fight, is people are saying that even though Usyk won, like people are saying that he kind of got robbed anyway, because a lot of rounds that should have been scored for him were scored for Tyson Fury. Right. The fight was ruled a split decision. But
would you say that was an earned split decision, or did it seem clear enough for Usyk that?
So I did just rewatch the fight this morning. We tried to rewatch it the other day. That didn't work out.
Bastards.
But I would say that the beginning of the fight, Usyk definitely won, and then like the middle of the fight was all Tyson Fury, and then in the 9th round is when the knockdown occurred, and from the 9th round on, I think it was all Usyk. So it should have been probably just Usyk winning by 1 round, including the knockdown. Instead, a few judges actually did score it, or one judge actually did score it for Tyson Fury. But yeah, I mean, regardless of how you thought the scoring should have went, I think that the rounds were close. But yeah, I don't think that the decision was egregious, but I think scoring it live, I had scored it a draw. So it is what it is. It's going to be another close fight, and really the narrative heading in is like, what can Tyson Fury do differently in this fight? You know, which is crazy because obviously I think Usyk is being overshadowed a lot, as he usually is in these high level fights. But yeah, I mean, what's crazy about Usyk is here's a guy who's already unified the cruiserweight division. One of the best 2 cruiserweights of all time. It's either him or Evander. Like, those are the only 2. And now he's unified the heavyweight division. And if he beats Tyson Fury again, I mean, I think there's a consideration for him being not just one of the best, maybe not one of the best heavyweights of all time, just because the longevity won't be there.
Right.
But certainly like first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the best boxers of all time. I mean, top 20 boxers ever.
Weight division after weight division after weight division winning titles.
Well, he's an Olympic gold medalist, but I don't know how many weight divisions he's won titles in professional boxing. I know for a fact he unified cruiserweight and heavyweight. So
yeah, which is impressive.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I think with this fight, I don't know. I feel like it's going in Usyk's favor most times out of 10. Like, you know, he won a few of the first couple rounds, and then Fury started to bring things back around round 4, round 5, started to sway the momentum. But I could easily see Usyk just sort of figuring Tyson out earlier, given this is their second fight. And if he starts to build up momentum in the first half of this fight, I just don't think Fury's going to have a good chance, because Usyk's the kind of guy who just has great cardio, is always pressuring forward, even when he gets lit up, like he was by Fury in the rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, and still pushed back and still rocked Fury on the feet. I think it'll be easier for Usyk to really like gain momentum, and I think he will still rock Tyson Fury, like on top of looking dominant. But he's just one of those boxers that really doesn't go away, that just keeps on pressuring, that is really hard to take down. Now, Dubois did hit him with that shot. Now, was it on the belt or was it below the belt? That is the controversy. So he has been dropped with body shots, and Fury was able to rack up quite a lot of body shots on Usyk in the first fight that led to uppercuts as well. So Fury knows where to target Usyk in order to get a reaction out of him. But at the same time, Usyk, he just keeps pushing, even when he gets dropped, even when he gets hurt. Like, he keeps pushing, and he'll try to find the knockout on you. And it just seems that whenever Fury is pushed into the corner or against the ropes, he's just sort of like helpless for a few seconds. Then he really just has to push to get out of that corner, but not before eating like 2, 3, 4 shots from Usyk. So I feel like the corner and the rope game is going to go Usyk's way. It's just whether or not Fury or Usyk figures out each other's like switch up going into this rematch first. And I think Usyk's really good at slowly figuring his opponents out over time. Fury is too, to be fair, but I think Fury gets more hurt in his fights before he figures out his opponent than Usyk does. So I just think there are way more advantages for Usyk in this thing. I don't think he's going to find a finish. I think, God help him, the referee is not going to call the fight if Fury is just digging all over the place and getting rocked and wobbled.
It's just so weird because I mean, it's like the same narrative, heading into the second fight. That's the thing that kind of sucks. It's like, in the first fight, I was like, oh, if there's a knockout that happens, it'll be Fury. But turns out Usyk was the one that hurt Fury in the 9th round.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you definitely broke down just how the first fight went pretty well. I think that the thing about Fury is he couldn't lean on Usyk much.
As much,
right?
Yeah. That's usually how he wins. Like, he just pressures and he wears his opponent out, and then he finds his combinations thanks to that.
Right. He finds a way to lean on you and tire you out.
Mm-hmm.
But he could not do that to Usyk until the later rounds.
Yeah. And that's another question. Is he going to lean on him more? Is he going to put his weight on him early in the fight?
I mean, I think, and that's like kind of what I was going to bring up. I think that's important, but you saw in the first fight how strong Usyk is. He just shrugged him off.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Tyson did at times show ability to get out of the corner. The problem is like the pressure and the footwork. Also, the Soviet style of boxing. I know he's Ukrainian, but that classic old Soviet style of boxing is really good with like switching your foot position as you go forward on your opponent, fighting from both stances. And Usyk's just master. I mean, you see how Lomachenko kind of boxes and is able to kind of fight from any angle. Usyk is very similar in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so hard to pick Tyson Fury in this fight, but at the same time, like, you could see him winning, because he's fucking Tyson Fury. He's fantastic. Both men are fantastic, but
he was able to crack Usyk with some perfectly timed counter shots. Like, there was
also
a right hand towards the end of the fight that stunned him. And
something
to the body,
bring up,
is
the fact that it seems that Turkey is clearly favoring Fury in this fight. He really wants him to win, and why wouldn't you, right? He's the more marketable guy. I understand that, but a lot of people are saying that'll lead to the scorecards being rigged in favor of Fury. Do you have any thoughts on that? What is up?
You can never tell with boxing. I have seen absolutely rotten decisions. God, what was his name? He was taking on like Conseco. Oshake Foster. Yeah. Foster was just styling on
Oshaki.
Yeah, Oshaki was styling on him for almost all that fight. Like, he had like maybe 2 rounds that you could say went to Robeson instead, and then they just gave it to Robeson afterwards. Like, I think it was
Brazilian, so I think it's pronounced Halton.
But I feel like Foster clearly won that fight, and then in the rematch he schooled Robeson, and then he got the belt back. So you just never know with certain boxing scorecards. Did you think that you've probably answered this before, but between Beterbiev and Bivol, do you think that fight easily went Beterbiev's way, or did you have it for Bivol? Like, what was
another fight? See, that's another fight where I was just like, Yeah, it was close.
I had it to draw personally.
I did score it. I think I scored one more round for Bivol, but that's another fight where you can't be upset with
Right.
who
Yeah,
wins.
that isn't a rigged scorecard.
So damn close.
But there have been ones that are just ridiculous in big time championship fights. So it's really just throwing the judges in a randomizer and seeing which one you're going to get come the main event.
There is going to be AI scoring for this. It's not. It's not like official scoring. But Turkey is going to play around with AI scoring, which just sounds.
I think Dana's been whispering in his ear a little bit too much. Methinks.
Okay.
So, ooh, AI. Ooh, I like AI.
But yeah, what's your official prediction for this fight?
I have Usyk winning by decision again. Might be a split. Honestly, could be a split. You never know with boxing judges, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a unanimous decision as well. Or majority, whatever decision you want. I think Usyk's going to win because I think he's going to rock Fury again in this fight. Honestly. And I also see a good chance of him taking the lead early in the fight. And that's something I don't think Fury can really come back from.
I mean, but that's the thing is he
came back in round 3, round 4.
He kind of did take the lead early, but then I remember watching it live. I was like, toss-up round. So you're saying through the first couple rounds, like it'll be definitive. He wins those. Usyk wins those rounds.
I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying there's a better chance of that happening.
Yeah. It's basically it's the same prediction as last time. If there's a knockout, it's Fury.
Right.
Sorry. I said last time we broke this fight down, which I think was like one of our first streams, by the way.
Yeah.
If I said in the first fight that if there's a knockout, it'll be Fury, but then Usyk was the one that ended up rocking him. So now I think Fury's best chance of winning is to knock Aleksandr Usyk out because Usyk's just such a good boxer. Like, over 12 rounds, the guy's a fucking menace to win a boxing match over.
Yeah.
Like, just everything we've talked about, you know?
My question is, how do you see him getting the knockout if he does score a knockout?
Uppercut. Probably that uppercut. But then again, it's like Usyk, he'll make the adjust. I truly think both of these men will make adjustments. And that's why this fight doesn't have a lot of buzz or really like. I mean, these are obviously two of the best heavyweights in the world. But we've already seen them fight for what? I mean, 36 minutes, you know? So it's just the 13th round of their last fight, you know? It's like, but yeah, I don't see how you could really confidently pick Tyson Fury to win this fight. I'm going to go with Usyk to win the decision as well. Pulse asks, if Fury loses, does he hang it up? I think if either man... Now, if Usyk loses, clearly they'll have a third fight. I don't think that's...
God almighty.
What?
Just waiting an entire year. Oh, but it looks like it was postponed again. We have to wait 4 more months for the trilogy fight, you know?
So if Usyk loses, you don't want to see the trilogy then?
I mean, it makes sense for it to happen, for sure.
Yeah.
But it would just be such a long wait. And I think there are other good heavyweight boxers I want to see in big-time title fights as well. So I think it would slow the division down quite a lot.
Okay. But
personally,
I'm just saying that's what's going to happen if Usyk.
Well, yeah, it is what's going to happen. But it's like picturing something in your mind. You're like, oh, God, I didn't even think of that. No.
If
this is a great point from Pulse, too. Tyson owes Ngannou a rematch. If he loses to Usyk, I could see him actually considering a super fight on the way out with Ngannou for big time money.
You guys are obsessed with that fight, dude. I don't.
This is since the first one.
What's that?
This is the first time I mentioned that fight since like it happened.
No, I just think that like combat sports fans in general are obsessed with Ngannou's singular night performance. Hence why I had people hitting me up going, dude, does Francis beat AJ? I'm like, fuck no, he doesn't beat fucking AJ. He's going to get smoked by AJ. How is this even a question?
How is that even a question? It's Marvin.
No, for real, though. It's like, does Francis beat AJ? Like, are you smoking crack? Like, if Tyson Fury rematched Francis Ngannou, I got bad news for you guys. Francis Ngannou gets knocked out again the same way he did against AJ. I mean, yeah, he had a great singular night performance, but the chances of that happening again are 1 in 100. If you ask me,
I guarantee that Fury would take it more seriously as well. He wouldn't be coming.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think the more realistic option, if Tyson Fury loses, is both men retire. If both men don't outright retire, I think that a fight that I really, really want to see from Tyson Fury before he retires is the Anthony Joshua fight.
Yeah, people beg.
But it would be tough for him to take it now because Anthony Joshua is looking
got destroyed
good
by Dubois.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was looking really good before he got destroyed by Dubois. So honestly, if he loses this fight, it makes perfect sense.
There you go.
One last one. Throw it in Wembley. 100,000 screaming fans.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fight. It's just the 13th round, and I think that both men are at the tail end of their career, which kind of sucks because we want to see more from Usyk. I mean, you can see over here I have their ages up here, 36 and 37. Nice. You know,
the Jones Stipe of boxing, Fury and Usyk.
I think it's more comparable to DC versus Stipe, but
yeah, that's way better.
Yeah, I mean, you have Usyk, who's had an extensive amateur career, Olympic gold medalist, fought in 2 weight classes, and then Tyson Fury, he's coming up on his 37th fight at 36. So, yeah. But yeah, that's it.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. That's it for the cards that we're going to be looking at on Friday and on Saturday. But we also have our own civil discussion regarding boxing outside of just this event, right?
Yeah, I want to talk about our own personal list for like the top 5 heavyweights of all time. I guess it could be champion, non-champion, but
right.
Yeah, go ahead, give me your list.
Do you want me to put it in like sequential order for like best 5th to 1st? Okay, I'm going to consider that. I'm going to move things around just a little bit.
I'll read a couple comments. Master Sanchai is very upset. He says, "Can we go back to Hank only stream?"
Those are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, and Saturdays they're much better. He says. People are saying Skate is in a mood, but the real question is, when is he not in a mood? Interesting. I think it's just a genuine personality, like a snobbier, somehow even more annoying of MMA Joey. Interesting. I don't know who that is.
For money. MMA Joey is an MMA YouTuber. He's like, guys, I need $100 from you guys by the time this stream is over. Okay, I need to make a birthday gift for my mother or something. I need a bag of Cheese Whiz. By the time Saturday rolls around, guys, please.
I think that Hank just attracts a certain crowd, sensitive people just like himself.
That is true, and we love it. We love our we love MMA. We're very emotional about it. It's like watching a movie or a TV show. You know, you just can't help but well up just a little bit, and then crash out in the moments that make you angry. That's good stuff. I enjoy it. It's a fun, beautiful disaster most of the time. But I do have my list up if you want to hear it.
Yeah, let's check it out.
In 5th place, I have a man by the name of Rocky Marciano. I have him in 5th. I was between him and Jack Johnson for 5th place, but I feel like Jack Johnson was in an era of boxing where there were some fights that were rigged a little bit. He even said that there were some title fights where, he expected me to lose, but I knocked the guy out anyway, or they wanted me to take the win over this guy who was just a schmuck, and I was able to do it. Whereas I feel like Rocky Marciano.
There's some rumors that his fight with Jess Willard was
who beat him, right?
Yeah, Jess Willard did beat him, but after he had been on the run because he was exiled from America, they actually invented this thing called the Mann Act in order to convict him. So then he went on the run for a while, and he had that fight with Jess Willard. I think it was either in Panama or Panama City, Florida. Either way, he was coming to the tail end of his career, and he kind of figured like, hey, this is the rumor, right? That if I lose this fight to Jess, they'll get off my back, and I can just live my life. not being the heavyweight champion anymore. So
Right.
there's some rumors that fight was fixed.
Yeah. But Rocky Marciano went on an unprecedented run at heavyweight champion, retired undefeated and undisputed, which is something Chael Sonnen only wishes he could be. Had a lot of all-time great fights, got beaten up, and he'd always come back, have scraps, and he was just fantastic, man.
Well, not only that, there was the four kings of the 50s.
Right.
Ezra Charles, Jersey Joe Walcott, Joe Louis, and Rocky. And Rocky is the only one to have wins over all three of them.
Well, wait, say that one more time. Sorry, I was looking at a comment for a second.
There's the four kings of the 50s. Rocky Marciano, Jersey Joe Walcott, Ezra Charles, and Joe Louis. And Rocky Marciano is the only one to have wins over all of them.
Yeah, a win over Joe Louis is pretty damn good.
Well, I mean, Joe Louis was 157 years old when he fought Rocky.
Yeah, that is true. But he had a fantastic run as heavyweight champion, and I love his fighting style and a lot
gone
of
too early as well.
Fights. Yeah, absolutely. But he retired on top, which is something a lot of boxers wish they could have done. And then number 4, I have mean old George Foreman, because he's probably has the most power of any boxer in boxing history. I mean, there's Mike Tyson, but who comes close? But Foreman's just putting guys out with just a right hand, bam. And the fact that he came back and won a belt. What was his age again when he came back?
42.
42.
He was well into. He was in his 40s for sure when he had won in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
it's interesting because Foreman had like 2 different careers.
Yeah,
and 2 completely different personalities too, on both of those careers.
Like Usyk,
look it up. He might have been older.
He was a gold medal winner in the Olympics, right? Yeah,
Foreman.
Yeah, Foreman.
I believe so.
I think so. He took out this Russian boxer to win the gold medal, I believe. And he was just fantastic in his younger days. Took out Smoking Joe.
45.
Yeah, that makes it even more impressive.
Oldest heavyweight champion.
Oldest, and wasn't he a very young heavyweight champion as well? Wasn't he like the youngest?
Now Floyd Patterson was younger than him, and Floyd was before his time, so he would not have been younger than Floyd Patterson, who I think he won the title in his early 20s, but I think Mike Tyson was like 21.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. He was very young though when he had won. Floyd Patterson was 21 when he won the heavyweight championship. Let me see. George Foreman. And here he comes.
Down goes Frazier. And that's Foreman in the neutral corner.
In 1973, I don't think he was super young. Let me see. We'll see. When he fought 32-year-old Ali, age 45. He won the title 20 years after losing it. Fucking crazy. Yeah, hold on. I'll have to look that up, but go ahead and
basically my point is that George Foreman won the world title when he was very young, lost it to Muhammad Ali, which is a hell of a guy to beat you for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then just scratched and clawed his way back in his early to mid 40s. And was able to take out another young cat to win the belt in a fantastic moment, watching that fight all the way through. He was getting his ass kicked in that fight where he won the heavyweight belt, but he would just stayed composed, changed up his game plan, figured out the timing of the young gun, and then just bam, with a 1-2, down he went. And that's just an incredible accomplishment for George Foreman.
It goes,
I don't care how many losses he had afterwards. It's
Mike Tyson, 20. Mike Tyson, 20. Floyd Patterson 21, which, by the way, Floyd Patterson won the heavyweight title when he was 21 in 1956. So literally 30 years later, Mike Tyson won the title in 1986. So nobody was the youngest heavyweight champion until Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Which, by the way, 20 winning the heavyweight championship.
Super impressive for sure.
That's going to be a tough one to overcome. But George Foreman was 24. Actually, it had only been 24 for 12 days. Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali were both younger than him. Muhammad Ali 22 and Joe Louis 23. Jack Dempsey 24. Only beating out George Foreman by 2 days.
Yeah. That's
fascinating.
Crazy. History is very interesting. By the way, Skatesman, when did you really start to get into boxing history beyond just enjoying the sport?
I think, really what happened to me was I had seen Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3, and that just kind of sparked my looking into boxing and checking out, seeing, who was who. The history of boxing is really fascinating to me. Also, Joe Louis and a guy like Jack Dempsey are guys that that really inspired me to learn more. And that's when I learned about guys like Sam Langford. Matua says, if Salvador Sanchez and Roy Jones Jr. ain't on this list, throw the podcast away. Salvador Sanchez was never a heavyweight. And Roy Jones, I think he did have fights at heavyweights, but he did most of his best work at middleweight. So,
yeah, those are completely different weight classes. This is not all-time great boxers in general. So, yeah, I just think it's impressive. His whole career, 70s to 80s, is a unparalleled run. And then we have Lennox Lewis, in my opinion, at number 3. It's because he's beaten a lot of the great names, late 90s to 2000s. I know he had that crazy upset loss to, what was his name? Who was the guy who just knocked him out?
Hakeem Rockman.
Yeah, and he took the belt right back, sort of like George St. Pierre took back the UFC welterweight title from Matt Serra. And he just went on a fantastic run. Looked super polished in there, technical. Oh, shit. Who was the guy who got his ear ripped off? Oh, Vander Holyfield. He had a great series of fights with the Vander, but looked great in pretty much all of those fights, even when they were close. There
was the fight with Klitschko, TKO 6, where the fight was stopped due to a cut, but a lot of people thought that Klitschko was gaining a lot of momentum on him. But yeah,
it's Lennox.
Definitely Lewis got to be probably up there on anyone's list.
Yeah. And then I have the last two. I have Muhammad Ali at number 2. Just because, again, he had all-time great fights. George Foreman had the rope-a-dope style. Knocked out Sonny Liston when he was just a fucking killer. He was destroying everybody. And then the rematch beat him even more handily. Joe Frazier obviously schooled him in that first fight. It was shocking. And then he came back and won the next 2 fights. You have to mention the big names, Sonny Liston, for George Foreman, Joe Frazier, and everybody else, he was just, schooling and styling on and doing the dance like a float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. There was just no one like Muhammad Ali. Also, he was a great boxer for the sport, probably the best heavyweight
changed boxing
for the sport, changed
cultural icon,
and in general, world history as well, politics, cultural. Muhammad Ali was huge. Brought a bunch of names to eyes.
Yeah, how many people were estimated to have watched Thrilla in Manila?
Is that including a global audience?
Yeah, I'm just saying, do you know how many people were estimated to have watched it live?
Is it 300 million?
It's a billion.
Billion, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. But then I was like, no, it can't be that. A billion people.
Right.
So crazy ass world historical figure and amazing boxer as well. He only really looked bad once he was truly out of his prime and getting old, and the symptoms of Parkinson's CTE and Parkinson's were sort of developing a little bit. So that's only when he left his prime. So
Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton fucking literally, and Larry Holmes literally on
yeah,
fully brain damaged.
And then after Muhammad Ali, we then have my number 1, who is Joe Louis. I got Joe Louis as number 1. I knew that Skatesman was going to be happy. That was the little shift that I had to make. Joe Louis is number 1. Rocky Marciano only beat him when he was fully out.
He was 185 years old when
exactly.
Rocky Marciano beat him.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra said so.
That's an actually reasonable excuse. And then before that, he was just laying waste to everybody, having highlight reel knockout after highlight reel knockout. Even the fun fights, he just dominated and destroyed them all. Joe Louis, my friend, Joe Louis. Beat that one German dude.
Max Schmeling versus Joe Louis. Right
Good
there.
old Matt Schmeling. Yeah, fucking laid waste to Matt Schmeling and annihilated him.
So,
Dude's
yeah,
incredible.
it's a fantastic. Any list that, in my opinion, any list that ends with Joe Louis as number 1, I mean, of course, I'm going to love that one. So my list will be a little different. So in 5th, I'm going to put Larry Holmes. One of the most underrated boxers ever. He beat Muhammad Ali, right? So everybody hated him because he beat Ali. Unlike Ken Norton, who actually had like competitive fights with Ali, people actually like Ken Norton. Larry Holmes just beat the absolute dog shit out of Ali. So, and he kind of, Ali getting CTE and, Parkinson's and looking like just shit. People obviously using him just to make money off of him while he was in deteriorating health. And then Larry Holmes, like putting a nail in that coffin, is really what ruined boxing for a long time. People didn't really care about boxing as much until Mike Tyson came around. That's why, Larry Holmes beating the shit out of Ali and being such a dominant champion, maybe not having the most exciting fights as well, is what coined the 80s as being the dark ages of boxing, of heavyweight boxing.
Sugar Ray Robinson and Roberto Duran didn't have the same kind of pull.
Ray Robinson was in the 50s. You're talking about Ray Leonard.
Sugar Ray Leonard. Sorry, Leonard.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, Larry Holmes went 48-0. And then he ran into Michael Spinks, who beat him in a close fight. A lot of people say that they robbed Larry Holmes because they didn't want him to hit that Rocky Marciano 49-0. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, Larry Holmes, man, underrated, disrespected, never got the love he deserved. I'm going to put him as number 5 on my list. Now, another fighter that he's not on my list, but did retire undefeated was Gene Tunney. I don't know if you know anything about the Fighting Marine, Gene Tunney. He had 2 fights with Jack Dempsey. This is when they changed the rules. Used to be, if you watch some of Jack Dempsey's like old footage, especially when he fought Jess Willard, you could knock a guy down and then just stand right over him, and then the referee would count. And once he got up, you could just start hitting him again. So if you watch Jess Willard versus Jack Dempsey, I think he knocks Jess Willard down like 7 times in the first round. But they had just changed the rules where you had to go into the corner. So this is like known as the long count fight, right? The first long count. Jack Dempsey versus Gene Tunney.
Yeah, thank God about that.
But yes, he was another fighter who did retire undefeated. The Fighting Marine, Gene Tunney. But for my number 4 spot, I think that I really never liked Rocky Marciano as much. I think that his undefeated record does him a lot of goodwill in the boxing world.
It sounds like he's sort of like a Habib of boxing, where man, he was great, but he left way too soon.
Little known fact, Rocky Marciano actually has his brother as one of his opponents up and coming on his record. So was Rocky Marciano fighting the most reputable guys?
Yeah, no, but hey, you know what? Marciano.
When the time came, he really did rise to the occasion. The Brockton blockbuster always got his ass whooped and just had the Suzy Q came back. So I think I will put Rocky Marciano 4th. I never really was high on him until I really dug deep into his career and what he did do in the 50s. Trying to fill in the shoes of Joe Louis is tough, and Rocky Marciano did the best job he could. For my number 3, I'm gonna put Jack Johnson. up there. Maybe not because of his actual heavyweight resume. Just more, in my opinion, the iconic nature of the man that is Jack Johnson. Again, a guy who never was supposed to be the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
A man who crossed the color line. I think it was James Jeffries had retired, and he refereed a fight between this guy Marvin Hart and some other fucking guy I can't remember, but Marvin Hart ended up winning, and it was actually Jim Jeffries' training partner. And Marvin Hart is the one who actually decided to give Jack Johnson the title shot and let him cross the color line. So shout out to Marvin Hart. Clearly wasn't a huge racist piece of shit. But that did cause Jim Jeffries to come out of retirement, in which Jack Johnson just beat the absolute dog shit out of Jim Jeffries because he was fat and on a farm. He wasn't training, beat the hell out of him. The images of Jack Johnson's fight look wild. They do.
The footage looks wild as well. Looks absolutely crazy.
And the way he would he had this leaping hook that he would do. And that Marvin Hart fight, by the way, is one that comes to mind because he has that leaping hook, knocks Marvin Hart down, and then the footage cuts because the police had actually stopped the fight because Marvin Hart was winning and they had him cut the cameras and shit. But yeah,
see, again, this is why I can't have him on there.
What do you mean?
Just that because there's a lot of shenanigans sometimes in the heavyweight title fights, and that's no fault of Jack Johnson's. That's just a fault of 20s boxing. And
well, no, the police had stopped the fight because Marvin Hart was losing at that point. They had to stop. They couldn't have footage of a white man.
Well, you said he was winning, and that's why they stopped it. I think you accidentally said winning. He was losing, and that's why they stopped it.
Yeah. Well, Jack Johnson was winning. He had knocked Marvin Hart down with that leaping hook.
Yeah.
And then they'd stopped the fight because it looked like maybe Jack Johnson was going to start.
Right. That's not Jim Crow South.
Marvin Hart. Yeah. But yeah, I got to put Jack Johnson up there, just his cultural significance. I mean, I think he had 3 wives commit suicide while they were with him because Jack Johnson had a thing for white women, and just the pressure and what this man had to go through in life. To me is worth a lot more merit.
Right.
Lennox Lewis is probably the right choice as far as skill goes, but for me, Jack Johnson is that dude. I got to put him at 3. And then my number 2 is the same as you, Hank. It's Ali and it's Joe Louis. I mean, I think Ali did a lot of things to damage his career at the end of his career. Maybe not to a fault of his own, and who knows if he really had his full wits about him making those. I don't think he was the one making those decisions, but again, I mean, it reminds me of a fight between this guy Ad Walgast and this guy Battling Nelson, back in the 30s. Both men had such crazy wars with each other that Ad Walgast had to be admitted to a psych ward later on in his life, and he died. His final days were lived thinking he was training for a fight with Battling Nelson. That's how bad. I think they had a 35 round title match. So yeah, I mean, who knows if these boxers, I mean, if they don't box, what are they going to do? So
yeah.
But at least Ali, when it happened to him, people started paying attention, and going, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing, taking lots of head trauma. But yeah, obviously this is kind of how I see it, is Ali was the greatest and Joe Louis was the best, right?
Yeah.
Joe Louis, another victim of fighting too long, right? When he fought Rocky Marciano, he was, a ripe old age of 212. I don't think anyone's disputing that at this point. But yeah, I mean, Joe Louis had a fight with Max Schmeling, which he had actually gotten knocked out in about the 6th round. And then the second fight happened when I think Germany had invaded Poland, and Max Schmeling was from Germany. And the sitting president at the time told him, hey, you got to win this fight for the good guys. Joe Louis goes out there, the only opponent to ever beat him, and he knocked him out in a round. Now, Max Schmeling was not a racist piece of shit.
No, but he was a symbol, right?
Yeah, Schmeling and Joe Louis were actually friends.
That makes it sad.
They were actually friends throughout their entire life. Schmeling actually helped him financially at certain points as well. But yeah, I mean, Joe Louis, 26 title defenses. I don't think that'll ever be topped. And not to mention, he cleaned out the division so bad that they started calling Joe Louis fights the Bum of the Month tour.
Yes. And I was going to mention that. Did you see the interview between Muhammad Ali and
Joe Louis? And he said, hey, I used to do Joe Louis said to Ali, hey, I used to do the Bum of the Month.
Well, I find that insulting.
Yeah, when asked how a fight,
I'm a local boy, heavyweight champion. You know, how could he say that to me, Joe Louis?
Well, when asked how a fight between the two of them would have gone, Joe Louis said, hey, listen, Ali, he said, I used to do the Bum of the Month tour, and I'm not saying I'd whoop your ass, but you'd have been on the tour.
You've been on the tour.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man,
that was,
like,
Joe Louis, totally man, like a Chael Sonnen kind of move of just like, well, you know, I'm Muhammad Ali. I'm gonna lead him in to hitting me with that little counter response because he's a legend. So now he always wanted to have a fun back and forth with his opponents.
And Joe Louis wasn't a victim of. I mean, shit, he had some fights with Ezra Charles and Jersey Joe that people said were straight up robberies. And actually, I think the first Jersey Joe Walcott fight, they had literally scored it wrong. They literally had added the math up wrong, and Jersey Joe Walcott should have won.
Oh my god!
But listen, Joe Louis came back in the rematch, kicked all their asses. So
yes, sir.
No boxer's perfect, but Joe Louis at his peak, man, he was that dude. So
yeah,
that's interesting. We had the same top two guys.
Yeah, it's interesting why you can't count Fury out because he's fantastic in rematches as well against his opponents in heavyweight title fights. So for that alone, you could consider Fury for an upset as well.
If Ali was the greatest and Louis was the best, who was the most technical?
In my opinion, I would say Muhammad Ali. Just because he literally invented the rope-a-dope. And his whole thing was, I'm so fast and I'm so pretty and I'm technical and I can hit you at range and like really get some shots that like death by 1,000 cuts. Like he wasn't I'm going to knock you out first round, big power. It was like, I'm slowly going to pick you apart and win this fight on my, grounds.
I think there's a case for Lennox and Larry Holmes to be the most technical.
Yeah.
Larry Holmes' jab alone was probably it to me. It's the best jab ever in boxing. But yeah, there's a great movie about Schmeling and Lewis's relationship. Yeah, they were good friends outside of the ring. Sucks that political things had to get in the way. But I guess to end the stream, I mean, if Usyk were to win, and I don't like to talk about this kind of thing until after a fighter's career is over, but where does he get placed in top boxers of all time?
Usyk? I would say, just thinking about it, in heavyweight boxing.
Or just fighters of all time, heavyweights of all time. Honestly, I think that his case as a heavyweight...
Top 10, in my opinion.
Boxers of all time?
Well, I mean, heavyweights. I think he earns a spot in the top 10.
I disagree. I think that heavyweights is a different... I think he gets placed lower on top heavyweights of all time than top boxers of all time.
Right, because he won in multiple divisions, and that goes across just like...
I think his heavyweight resume is lacking.
Right. So in terms of boxers of all time, I'd say put him at least top 30.
Yeah, 100%. Top 20.
Yeah.
I'd say top 20 personally. But what about Tyson Fury? If he were to come back, let's say he just knocks Usyk out cold, beats him again in a rematch, and then say he just cleans up on Dubois, like does it all.
That would legit be insane. That's a candidate for him to be top 20, maybe even top 15. That's an incredible.
I agree. I would say his heavyweight record would be more extensive at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah. either way, both men have carved their names into heavyweight boxing and boxing as a whole, boxing history. I think they're both Hall of Famers, regardless of what happens on Saturday. Or wait, is the fight taking place on Saturday or Sunday?
Pretty sure it's on Saturday. I don't see a lot of high marquee boxing events taking place on Sunday. Their last fight.
I just wasn't sure with the time. Maybe it's like early Saturday.
Yeah, probably. Usually is in Saudi Arabia. Usually I'm up early for those. So there you go. It's going to be a great event. KSW is also going to be a lot of fun. Rise is going to be a lot of fun. So tune into all 3 of those shows if you have the time. And yeah, it's going to be a great time.
When is KSW happening?
That's happening on Friday.
Okay, so Friday,
the major MMA show.
You'll get KSW. Friday night into Saturday, you'll be getting Rise. And then probably right after that.
Saturday
probably
morning cartoons.
4 hours after that, you'll probably be getting Fury Usyk too. So
yeah.
So what a weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a weekend. UFC gone. Couldn't ask for anything better, let me tell you, folks. Except
not to mention, I think the Friday fights are tomorrow morning as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I think they were mentioning Quan Il was going to be on Friday fights. Am I wrong about that? Each is a big fan of his, but hope that he's on because he's returning to one. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I think that's it, man. That's it for the show.
Cool. All right, man. Well, why don't you lead us out?
All right,
got you queued up here.
All right, you have escaped the war zone for now. Oh, let me tell you, to silly rabbit, Trix forgets. Go on, my son. Destroy him, my son. Beat him up in the club afterwards. It don't matter. Get drunk, you know. I don't care if you got a living ice cream belly. It don't matter. You got the power of them fists. Hit him with the jab. The uppercut.